We're back out here at the Big Lake once again, and today we're talking about my favorite time to go bass fishing during those hot summer months and why it can be so effective. When I tell you, you're going to call me crazy. Stick around, you don't want to miss this one. Got him. That's not bad. And here is this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have a chance to have your comment featured in an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing. And we talk about fishing during the dog days of summer and what are the best times. And a lot of guys, they're going to tell you they go out in the morning before that sun gets up, or they're going to be going out in the evening as that sun goes down. They are trying to beat the heat. And what I'm about to tell you sounds like complete hogwash. And that is high noon, bluebird skies. Those are my absolute favorite days to go bass fishing during the summer. It was 104 degrees out here today, and the wind wasn't all that good, so it was very, very hot, which segues into this shirt, which was sent to me by the fine folks over at CalCal. They reached out to me, asked me if I would try one of their shirts, give it a review, tell you guys about it. It's for outdoorsmen, for sportsmen like us who want to be outside, who want to be comfortable. And I have a hard time having shirts that fit me properly because I have such a wide chest because I work out. So I have to usually buy shirts that are one size too big. As a result, it's tight in the shoulders, but it's really long in the sleeves. I don't have a problem with this. This is an extra large shirt. Fits me like a glove. It's got good stretch to it. And even though it's dark colors, nice and cool all day. And one of the best parts about it is it looks really, really good on me. And that's important. I can't just get any outdoor shirt. I have to get ones that look good on camera, because if I'm sweating like a pig and I come back and record video with sweat stains all over me, that's not very appealing. So even though I was out on the water all day, out in the baking, blistering sun with very little wind at all, this looks nice because it kept me cool and dry. And even now, with a slight breeze blowing through, it feels really nice. But this shirt has some added benefits. It comes with a built-in neck gaiter, right? You know, that's great for guys who like to have that face covering. And also, it comes with a built-in hood, you know, and you can kind of combine them together and go for that ninja look, right? So you've got the complete coverage for whenever you're outdoors. Now, those are not things that I'm going to use so much, but a lot of guys like them. I don't burn that much, so I can get in the sun and get a little bit dark. But when I'm out in the water all day, I definitely want the UV protection of a nice shirt. Now, if I had a negative about this thing, it's these strings, right? This shoestring is way too long. It kind of gets in my way when I'm trying to make casts, when I'm trying to tie baits on. So I wish this was a little bit shorter. So other than that, great shirt. Check these guys out over at calcal-online.com. Link's going to be in the description. This shirt's going to be in a lot of videos upcoming, so get used to seeing it. But let's get back to what we were talking about before, and that is fishing those hot days. And I love fishing bluebird skies. Those are my favorite times to fish. And I know you're going to call me crazy. It was 104 degrees out here today. That sun was baking. Not a cloud in the sky and barely any wind. And it was hot. But you know what? Those bass were set up in predictable locations. That makes them easier to catch. That is one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle down. What's rule number one when it comes to bass fishing? Find the fish, right? If you don't find the fish, you're not going to catch any fish. So even if you make a lucky cast and snag a fish or catch a fish on a random cast, that counts. You found that fish. You might not have been trying, but it still counts. But having said that, Bluebird Skies is going to put those bass into predictable behavior and predictable locations because of the weather, because of how high it is. They're going to be looking for shade. They're going to be looking for cover. They're going to be looking for structure. They're going to be looking for a place to get out of the heat. And they might not necessarily want to go deep. The reason being is if they can get what they need to get without going deep, without having to go far, then they're going to do that, right? If they're going to go shallow, if they're staying shallow, they would prefer to do that. That way they don't have to expend a bunch of energy leaving an area, especially if that area has a good food source and provides other things that they like. So if they can find some flooded brush to hide under, or they'll go out deep and there's some, there's some timber or there's some structure out deep that they can relate to and get out of the sun, they will do that. So it really narrows those areas where the bass are going to congregate, and it's going to be predictable. Now, on the other side of the coin, and this is where we're here, guys talking about the bass don't bite during the summer, is when those bass pull into those predictable spots, well, it creates a whole bunch of dead water. That means most of the lake is going to be dead water. Those bass are not going to be there. And what bass are there? They're not going to be in the mood to bite because they're trying to find a place to get out of the sun. So that's why I like fishing those Bluebird Skies. Yeah, having a little cloud cover is not going to be bad because when it's 105, 110 degrees out in South Mississippi, and we're going to have these temperatures from June until September. It's just part of being in South Mississippi. It's part of being in the deep South. Like I've said before, we've got 4 seasons here. We've got summer, more summer, still summer, and then for a couple of weeks in December, we've got not summer. But other than that, it's pretty much summertime here. But you can use those things to your advantage, and you can take advantage of how those bass are setting up, and it makes it easier. If you come out to the lake and you don't have the presentation that is effective, right? You thought a spinnerbait was working, but it's not. You don't get anything on a spinnerbait, but you know those bass are there because, well, you can see them splashing right in your area. So you know they're there. You know that they're splashing. You can see them. You can visually lay eyes on them, and that makes a huge difference. Once you see that, well, all you've got to do is dial in the right presentation. Most of the work of finding the bass is done. Like I said, first thing, find the bass. Second thing, find the presentation that they want to eat. All you've got to do is half of it. And it won't take long, especially if those bass are active, especially if those bass, you see them jumping everywhere, especially right near the boat or right near the bank. You're going to find something fairly soon because there's usually an array of baits that those bass will key off on. It's not just going to be one thing. They won't just hit a shaky head and then nothing else. If they're hitting a shaky head, they may hit a wacky worm. They may hit a NACO rig. They may hit a weightless Texas rig or a fluke or something in that area as an example. Now today, we had the usual cast of characters. When I started out, obviously the Poppin' Frog. This is a Fish Lab Poppin' Frog. This is my favorite Poppin' Frog, and I love this thing because of how effective it is, if I can get it on the hook, because of how effective it is and how soft that body is. Unlike other Poppin' Frogs, like that Vega frog, this is a really soft body like those scum frogs, so hookups are not an issue. And with that really big wide mouth, I get a lot of water movement, so I don't have to work it so hard. Obviously, this is on my do-it-all braid setup for the hydrilla. I use this for Texas rigs. I use this for Poppin' Frogs, topwater, weightless flukes. It serves me well because I need a versatile setup because I can only have a couple of rods in that little boat. Now, another presentation, obviously, was the Waco rig. This white trickworm 1/0 EWG. I've got a 1/16 ounce nail weight, tungsten nail weight in there on my spinning combo. Again, this was doing work for me again today. It was enticing those tougher bites. When those bass were going after those little schools of bait fish, I could put this in there, and that gentle working motion, that more silent motion, it's more visual than it is anything else. I could get a couple of bites working that way. And it's great to be able to have, several different types of presentations that you can work with. But the star of the day, what I got to say is the star of the day was this guy. And it's going to be a surprise to no one, a jig. right? Lowbrow is an old jig fisherman, and I get it. Jigs are boring. Jigs are not any fun, and that's why I don't show them on the channel too much. But this guy right here, this is a 1/2 ounce Booyah jig, and it's got rattles on it, right? It's got a little crack and crawl in the back of it, and you're saying, Lowbrow, why are you using a black and blue rattle jig in the middle of bluebird skies? Well, we've had a couple of days solid of some good heavy rain. It's washed some mud into the water. So I wanted this to kind of give those bass more of an audible cue rather than a visual cue. It's got the rattles on it, and I worked it in a little bit deeper water. I was a little bit offshore around a submerged creek channel that had a thick weed edge. Again, those bass are going to be held up in that weed edge, not so much because it's deep, but because that weed edge gives them cover and gives them oxygenation and makes them feel comfortable. Bass are always going to hunt out spots that makes them feel comfortable. And this guy right here, well, wasn't long right after I tied it on, and I had a nice bass just absolutely inhale this thing. We're going to finish out the day with this Booyah rattling jig, and I've got a Googan Crack and Claw as my trailer. It's a 1/2 ounce jig with rattles, and it seems like an odd color choice, but that water is murky. Like I said, we've had 2 solid days of rain. And I'm dragging to the side because I want to keep that jig going across the bottom, giving it little taps. Got him. That's not bad. Ooh, look at how he choked that jig. Beautiful, beautiful fish on the old Booyah jig with the Crack and Claw trailer. Look at the lipstick on that thing. Beautiful. North of 1.5 pounds, approaching 1 3/4 pounds. And hang on. Yeah, anyway. North of 1.5 pounds, approaching 1 3/4 pounds. Probably 16 inches long, somewhere in that area. Beautiful, gorgeous fish. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. And there he goes. Even a boring old jig can be an option. It didn't have to be out deep. That was just where I found those bass. You can use a jig right along the bank. You want to fish it shallow? Try a Bitsy Bug jig. Try something like a 1/4 ounce Bitsy Flip or a Bitsy Bug jig, and put like maybe half a little stick bait on the back of it as a trailer. Trust me, something like that will get amazing bites. Because in the summertime, just because those bass are hot doesn't mean they're not going to eat a nice little nugget whenever you put it in front of them. Even if they've just eaten, a lot of times they're going to want to eat a little light snack, right? An after dinnerment, as it were. So don't be afraid to experiment. Whenever you're from the bank, wherever from the boat, it doesn't matter. Don't be afraid to experiment. Try something new. You may happen on something that's very effective and nobody else is throwing it. And as we always say, show those bass something different. So in the summertime, don't be afraid of that hot weather. Don't be afraid of those bluebird skies and those still calm days, because there is some great fishing to be had. You don't have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and be on the lake by 3:30. To me, that's just crazy. Or you don't have to be out all hours of the night just to avoid the sun, when the best fishing during the summertime is in the very middle of the day. So there you have it. my reasonings for fishing during the hottest part of day during the dead of summer. It puts those bass in very predictable locations, and predictable bass makes them easier to catch. Give it a try. You might just surprise yourself at how effective it can be. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.